Welcome back. As you know, I'm Eli, the computer guy, here for the Daily Blob, where you say, do you know what would really change the world? A crap ton of houses. A crap ton of houses. What if we took all of this money that's being driven into artificial intelligence and, I don't know, built houses, improved hospitals, did that type of thing? Could we do that? Could we? No, we can't do that. Oh, anyways, yeah, more and more money is being dumped on artificial intelligence, which tells you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that this absolutely and utterly is not a bubble. When every major player wants to be the leader in this particular sector, and they're throwing hundreds of billions of dollars to get there, that absolutely and utterly means we are not in a bubble. So this comes from The Guardian. I thought it was kind of interesting because there's a lot of numbers here. Big Tech has spent $155 billion on AI this year. It's about to spend hundreds of billions of dollars more. Tech giants have spent more on AI than the U.S. government has on education, jobs, and social services in 2025 so far. So yeah, you might not get education or a job or social services. Make sure you get fed. But don't worry, we are going to have a crap ton of artificial intelligence. The U.S.'s largest companies have spent 2025 locked in a competition to spend more money than one another, lavishing $155 billion on development of AI, more than the U.S. government has spent on education, training, employment, and social services in 2025 so far. Based on the most recent financial disclosures of Silicon Valley's biggest players, the race is about to accelerate to hundreds of billions of dollars in a single year. Over the past 2 weeks, Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, and Alphabet, Google's parent, have shared their quarterly public financial reports. Each disclosed that their year-to-date capital expenditure, a figure that refers to the money companies spend to acquire or upgrade tangible assets, already totals tens of billions of dollars. Google said during its most recent earnings call that its CapEx expenditure primarily reflects investments in servers and data centers to support AI. Meta's year-to-date capital expenditure amounted to $30.7 billion, doubling the $15.2 billion figure from the same time last year. Per its report, for the most recent quarter alone, the company spent $17 billion on CapEx, also doubled the same period in 2024 of $8.5 billion. Alphabet reported nearly $40 billion in CapEx to date for the first 2 quarters of the current fiscal year. So, yeah. I mean, so Meta has spent almost $31 billion already this year on AI, and Alphabet has already spent $40 billion this year on AI. $71 billion by 2 companies into AI in right about 6 months. Microsoft, let's see here, CapEx, and Amazon reported $55.7 billion. Microsoft said it would spend more than $30 billion in the current quarter to build out the data centers powering its AI services. Microsoft CFO Amy Hood said the current quarter's CapEx will be at least 50% more than the outlay during the same period a year earlier, and greater than the company's record CapEx expenditures of $24.2 in the quarter till June. So, I mean, just think about this. 30.7 for Meta, 40 for Alphabet, 55 for Amazon, and 30 for Microsoft. $155 billion in the first 6 months of 2025 alone by these big tech companies. And this is my argument. I am not actually anti-AI. I'm not anti-artificial intelligence. I will remind you, it's not that. These systems are not actually AI, but that's a whole different argument. My question is, what is the real value here? What is the real ability to pull profit from these systems, right? That's the whole thing about investment. You invest so that your investment is worth more in 5 or 10 years so you can take the money out. My concern here is when you look at these major players putting $155 billion into these systems in the first 6 months of a single year, it is hard to believe that that level of investment actually makes sense for the results that will be given. Let's see here. Quote, "We will continue to invest against the expansive opportunity ahead," Hood said. For the coming fiscal year, Big Tech's total CapEx is slated to balloon enormously, surpassing the already eye-popping sums of the previous year. Microsoft plans to unload about $100 billion on AI in the next fiscal year, Nadella said Wednesday. Meta plans to spend between $66 and $72 billion. Alphabet plans to spend $85 billion, significantly higher than its previous estimation of $75 billion. Amazon estimated that its 2025 expenditure could come to $100 billion as it plows money into Amazon Web Services, which analysts now expect to amount to $118 billion. In total, 4 tech companies will spend more than $400 billion on CapEx in the coming year, according to Wall Street Journal. That is just a bending number. The tech giants can't seem to spend enough for their investors. Microsoft, Google, and Meta informed Wall Street analysts last quarter that their total CapEx would be higher than previously estimated. In the case of all 3 companies, investors were thrilled and shares in each company soared after their respective earnings calls. Microsoft's market capitalization hit $4 trillion the day after its report. This is the thing that I get concerned about the modern world of the tech industry, and frankly, the modern world, is how much is driven by investors. It's not driven by profit. It's not driven by revenue. It's driven by investors. You look at this, $155 billion already in the first 6 months of 2025. Over the next fiscal year, they're talking about $400 billion in investment, right? And there has to be a real question there. Is there enough demand in the market? The total addressable market for AI services, does this level of investment actually make sense for revenue and then profit, right? There's a real question there. But the issue is, for a lot of these companies, right, they don't necessarily have to worry about revenue. They don't necessarily have to worry about profit. If they can get investor money, if they can get the investors excited, that's good enough for them. And so I think that's one of the big concerns that I have here, is so much of this is being investor focused, right? They hired tens of thousands of tech employees for no good goddamn reason during the COVID epidemic because investors really wanted to see them hire more people and focus on work from home. Right? Things change after a couple years. They're firing tens of thousands of employees at a time, and they're killing work from home. We were told specifically, like with work from home, that work from home, obviously, it's the future, and anybody who argues against work from home is a Luddite moron. How many of these executives came out and castigated anybody, like people like me, that said, I don't know if work from home is great for many of the positions that you folks have in your businesses. And people like me were castigated by the masses because how dare you be so stupid and such a Luddite to believe that people have to come into the office to do basic tasks for their employers, right? And that's what I was told. That's what I was told for a couple years. I am so fucking stupid. I can't grasp that everybody should work from home. And then all of a sudden, things change. And now everybody's being pulled back to the office. Tens of thousands of people are being fired, and everybody forgets somebody was arguing about this for years and years and years and years, right? And that's what I see here, right? It's what the investors want. The investors want to see this. This is what happens. The investors want to see this. This is what happens. The investors want to see AI. Then AI happens. but is this being driven by market demand? I am a technology professional. I use these AI services, right, to help write code. Claude Code apparently is amazing. I use it to create featured images. There is a value here. It's kind of like when I talk about Tesla. I'm not saying Tesla should be a worthless company. I highly question whether it should be $1 trillion company, and I laugh at the idea of it being a $20 trillion company. Doesn't mean it shouldn't have value, maybe $250 billion, something like that, but the value that it has, that's what doesn't make a damn bit of sense. The same thing is true with so much of this AI investment. It's not that AI services do not have value. It's not that they won't change the world, but NoSQL changed the world. Right? If people were putting $400 billion into NoSQL, would you be like, well, that makes sense? Well, Eli is a new database type that's going to revolutionize the entire world. Right? Of course you should put $400 billion into it. No, it's fucking stupid. NoSQL fundamentally changed our entire world. And look, it's got an amount of investment, but it's not fucking $400 billion, right? The same as I look at AI, right? Is the AI stack impressive? Yes. Is the AI stack going to change things? Yes. Does $400 billion in investment in a single fiscal year make sense? No. Anyways. Even Apple, the cagiest of the tech giants, signaled that it would boost its spending on AI in the coming year by a major amount, either via internal investments or acquisitions. The company's quarterly capex rose $3.4 billion, up from $2.15 during the same period last year. Tim Cook, Apple CEO, said Thursday the company was reallocating, quote, a fair number of employees to focus on artificial intelligence, and that the, quote, heart of our AI strategy is to increase investments and embed AI across all of our devices and platforms. Cook refrained from disclosing exactly how much Apple is spending. Smaller players are trying to keep up with the incumbents' massive spending and capitalize on the gold rush. OpenAI announced at the end of the week earnings that it raised $8.3 billion in investment, part of a planned $40 billion round of funding, valuing the startup whose ChatGPT chatbot kicked in 2022 at $300 billion. So yeah, as I've talked about before, OpenAI is getting $40 billion more of investment so they can build more data centers. Because, you know, if there's one thing we're lacking right now in 2025, it's not housing, it's not hospitals, it's AI data centers. If only we had more AI data centers, we would get rid of homelessness in this country. Yeah. Anyways, Eli, you're not paying attention to the right things. You're not paying attention to the right stuff. So yeah, you know, I think this is vaguely interesting to take a look at, being in this world for a while, just to have seen the boom and the bust cycles, and also to see just the buzz around particular technologies. Right? When I talk about the whole NoSQL thing, NoSQL is a schemaless database system. Incredibly scalable, incredibly fast. Basically, it was used initially, especially for building out social media sites. So social media sites needed a database system that was incredibly fast, incredibly scalable. If it lost data every once in a while, it didn't really matter, right? If you lose a tweet, if you lose one out of every 100 tweets or whatever, it doesn't really matter. So anyways, that's what they needed. And so the NoSQL system was great because basically you could create the Facebooks of the world, the Twitters of the world, all the social media sites of the world. You could connect it into a NoSQL backend, and it worked pretty darn well, right? And if you look at it, right, you know, over the past 10, 15 years, truly the most revolutionary in one way or the other technology that's come down the pike are these social media sites. They would not be able to exist without these NoSQL databases. NoSQL has revolutionized the world, and most of you have no idea what the fuck NoSQL is, right? On the other hand, this is what I've talked about before, blockchain comes out, and because Bitcoin is built on blockchain, apparently blockchain is the future, ergo you have to buy Bitcoin to invest in blockchain, which is just not how any of that shit works. Not how any of that works. But if you look at blockchain, I'm not actually, as I've said, I'm not anti-blockchain. It's like, okay, you want an insanely distributed database system where the data is immutable. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying there's no use cases. I'm not saying there's no use cases. There's just not a crap ton of use cases for that, right? But what we heard is blockchain is the future, and nobody says shit about NoSQL. Right? That's what I'm looking at with this AI stuff that's coming down the pike. It's not that there's no value there. It's not that there's no use case. Obviously, there's use cases with a lot of this kind of stuff. But I don't think it's solving the value propositions that we are being told. I don't think it's nearly as valuable as these folks are trying to say that it is, and I think it's going to create just an insane bust coming down the pike after so much has been invested into these systems. I mean, you have OpenAI building out their insane data centers. You have xAI building out their data centers. You have Google. You have Amazon. You have Microsoft. You have Anthropic. You have Mistral. You have all these people, and they're hyper focused on AI data centers. And that's where I just have a question mark, right? Do we really need AI? Think about this from a doctor, right? My wife has had 3 cancers plus numerous scares, been in the hospitals quite a bit over our marriage. And like when I look at it, do we really need AI to improve the system, or do we need a better standardized system? I talked about that before, where we went to the hospital. So she had, I think it was, thyroid cancer? Anyways, it was one of them. Anyways, literally went to the hospital, and she had stayed in the hospital, right? So she had surgery, she stayed in the hospital that night, and she needed some medication, right? And so she was wrapping up, she was getting this stuff together to leave her room, and the doctor gave me the prescriptions and said, I said, okay, well, while my wife is finished wrapping up, I'll just go down to the pharmacy, right, in the hospital, get the prescription filled, and then I'll be back. I literally had the doctor say, oh no, that'll take you like 2 hours. No, just go to CVS. And you're like, what? My wife came into this hospital, has had numerous consultations in this hospital over the past couple of months, has had full surgery, had to stay here at night to recover from the surgery, and literally the systems are so segregated that it is easier to go to CVS than it is to go to the hospital pharmacy, right? That has not a goddamn thing to do with artificial intelligence. That's the whole thing, like with medical records and the whole thing. In the US, the medical records are separate. It's got all this different kind of stuff going on. We don't need artificial intelligence for the medical records. We need a better, more integrated system so everything can communicate better, right? I look at so many of the problems that we have with technology, and honestly, in my heart of heart, we need better implementations. We need more deployments, and we need so much of this technology to be up to the standards of 2020, for Christ's sakes, not 2000, where so much of the technology actually resides at. And that's where I look at it. And there's this hyper push for artificial intelligence, but if we haven't been able to deploy the technology that we already have to a reasonable degree, is dumping all of this AI onto the systems actually going to make a lot of sense? Right? That's the right. I think about that like in the medical world, again, since the medical world actually matters to me, right? There's been more and more focus of creating high value drugs to do little things, like basically like with Ozempic, right? Ozempic has made Novo Nordisk, whatever company, just gazillions of dollars, right? There's a lot of hyper focus on things like weight loss drugs, or things that you can mine a lot of money out of, but is not necessarily the most serious problem to be dealt with currently. Like if you look in the United States right now, there are so many drugs that we simply do not have access to, right? There are generic drugs. They are no longer patentable. They're generics that simply anybody can produce, but because of how our manufacturing system works, we run out of those drugs. When my wife had thyroid cancer, that was one of the problems. There was one factory in the United States that produced this particular drug for dealing with a thyroid cancer initially. Literally, there had been contamination in the vials that they shipped them out, and so they shut down the factory, right? In an abundance of caution, the CDC or FDA or whoever, they shut down the factory. Well, my wife needed that drug. Like, no, seriously, my wife needed that drug. And there was no way to get it, right? And all these pharmaceutical companies, they're focused on the next big thing. What is the next big patentable thing? Because they want to go after that because they think they can mine that for billions and billions of dollars. Actually producing generic drugs isn't worth anybody's time. And I feel like that's the that's the metaphor for what we're dealing with right now, is instead of focusing on the brass tacks of deployments and integrations and that type of stuff, everybody is off to this billion-dollar concept of artificial intelligence, right? They are all searching for that next .com moment. They're all searching for that next mobile moment. And my honest belief is we're just past that. I don't think there is another iPhone moment. I don't believe that there's another AOL moment or that type of thing, right? We will get new technology. It will improve some things, and that's how it'll go. But anyways, they're dumping more and more money into it, so you might as well sell shovels. Hey, if they want $155 billion in shovels, by God, sell them $155 billion in shovels. Anyway, so what do you think about this? What do you think about $155 billion already being invested in CapEx expenses in big tech for AI in the first 6 months of this year? What do you think about $400 billion being invested over the next fiscal year? Oh, golly. Oh, golly. What do you think? What do you think about the modern world? Put your thoughts down below. If you like these videos, give us a thumbs up. If you don't like these videos, give us a thumbs down. Leave us a great comment. Leave us a horrible comment. Do remember, in the modern world of social media, all that matters is that interaction. So interact, by God. SiliconDojo.com. We do fireside chats over there. We are having the CTO and co-founder of an integrations company come on this week in a couple of days to talk about how they try to integrate artificial intelligence into their systems. If you're interested in that, sign up on SiliconDojo.com. Next week, we are going to have the VP for AI models for IBM. He's going to come on. He's going to talk about what they're doing over there. Also, again, go to SiliconDojo.com, become a member, RSVP, and you can be on the Zoom session and ask questions and that type of deal. With that, that's all I got. See you later.